are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. Episode 222 of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck, at your boy on Twitter. Talk to you about the latest in Auburn athletics news. And just to let everybody know, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, whichever one you want to call it, on July 4th, of course. Out here representing America, always. But to get started right away, On3 recently put up a graphic ranking their SEC coaches based on how much pressure that they are under in 2024. Of course, if I could just run through it real quick, number 16 came out as Mike Elko, 15 Jeff Lebby, 14 Brent Venables, which I could say is probably a little bit higher than that. Number 13 is Josh Heupel, 12 Mark Stoops, 11 is Hugh Freeze, 10 is Elijah Drinkwitz, 9 Kirby Smart, 8 Lane Kiffin, 7 Steve Sarkisian, 6 Brian Kelly, 5 Shane Beamer, 4 Clark Lee, 3 Kalen DeBoer, 2 Billy Napier, and 1 Sam Pittman. So going through that list, I mean, a lot of those guys are pretty well ranked. I mean, if you look at Billy Napier and Sam Pittman, Shane Beamer, and Clark Lee kind of being in the top 5, because you don't really expect Vanderbilt being kind of a program that's under any kind of pressure in the football realm, because no offense to all the Vanderbilt fans out there who might be watching or listening to the show, it's kind of hard to ever give them pressure because 4-8 seasons are pretty expected nowadays from Vanderbilt, and hopefully one day you get to see them. And it's so special whenever you do get to see them like move up and get those bowl wins, or when James Franklin was there and they got those 10 wins. But looking at Hugh Freeze, and I saw a lot of people kind of upset, or a lot of other fan bases really were kind of upset the fact that Hugh Freeze was at 11. Didn't really, and people kind of, everyone assumes that the Auburn job is always going to be the most like pressure given job in college football because all the Auburn fans expect to win, and they get upset whenever there's no winning to be done. And I saw a lot of people got upset that Kalen DeBoer was at 3 because they think he should be lower because he doesn't feel there's any pressure for him. But I think that's a great spot for him. But I'm on the boat where I think Hugh Freeze isn't under terrible pressure to win in 2024. I think when you're looking at the season as a whole, this is this Auburn boosters and everyone in charge and Hugh Freeze and the team kind of understand that they're building up to it. They're getting to the point to where they are winning games, where they are competing for SEC titles, where they are like taking on Georgia and Alabama and trying to, take down the top teams in the country year in and year out. And everyone kind of understands that this year's kind of the start of that. Of course, 2023 is the first year if you freeze and you really got to see at least flashes of what this team can look like under Hugh Freeze. And of course, with a completely like rebuilt roster, and you give them all the players that he wants by 2025, 2026, you can start expecting that. If you want to rank Hugh Freeze higher up and based on his pressure that he's under, 2025 and 2026 are kind of where you want to start maybe pushing the needle a little bit and being like, all right, now we got 2 years worth of players, we got 3 years worth of players. Time to kind of get the ball moving. But I don't see 2024 as that. I don't think 2020, it would have to be a absolutely abysmal year for me to even think that they would have the possibility of firing Hugh Freeze. Of course, it'd be like, I don't think Auburn will ever reach this point, but like a 4-8, 3-9 or worse season really probably would there be consideration. But even then, I don't even know if that would happen. You just have to really worry about players potentially decommitting or leaving or transferring, all that stuff. But 2024 has the potential to be a very decent like schedule in it for Auburn, because we look at it all the time. Of course, we're doing the wait to really season preview, and I've done my predictions before. I'm pretty set on Auburn has a very high chance of getting 8 wins this year. And of course, 7-5 isn't the worst, especially if you can win a bowl game and get 8 wins. Auburn is getting 8 wins this year, whether it be regular season or adding in the postseason. I think that's a very high possibility. I think that having a bunch of home games makes it even more feasible. And of course, Auburn just always has been really good at home. as opposed to having to travel to play all the other tough games of the season. But watching Hugh Freeze kind of talk about this year, and everyone who listens to what he has to say kind of see the fact that he's not saying the team is like completely ready to win. Of course, if they win, then it's a great thing, and of course he's wanting to win. They're coaching to win the games, but he understands that. All right, if it happens, it happens. But right now, it's not something that we're expecting to be competing for right away. We're not expecting 2024 to turn into a national championship team, and it would be awesome if it did. But that's not what the mantra is. Of course, they're trying to build a roster capable of sustaining success, but they have and working to get there on their way to that. And I mean, I've just every one of the comments I've been seeing from this list. Of course, this is on 3. Very just everyone's under pressure at Auburn. You can't have an Auburn coach not at the top 5 of this. And I've seen people put him on the hot seat, and everyone's putting on. I've seen people put him in number 1 on the hot seat, as opposed to Sam Pittman, who I think is 2 losses away to start the season off from getting fired before September is even over. But just looking at looking at his career as a whole, Hugh Freeze does his best work when he is given time to build his roster. We saw it at Ole Miss. We saw it at Liberty. You just got to give time with these things. Of course, Auburn has been in rebuilds before. It had sometimes with Gus Malzahn, you had a great start to rebuild in the first year. But you go after 2 years of Harsin. Firing a coach after 2 years again just sounds terrible. Of course, then people making the jokes that Auburn's always the team that's paying their former coaches more money than their current coaches are getting paid. But I don't see a world where Auburn fires Hugh Freeze in a season that's not just abysmal. It would have to be the worst season possible for Auburn to fire Hugh Freeze right now. That's why I agree with the list. I don't think Hugh Freeze under that much pressure to win in 2024, but 25 and 26 is kind of when I'm like, okay, maybe start expecting it now. Maybe it's time for him to start, getting 9-10 wins a year, that level of play. Because Auburn, of course, I think I've said this multiple times, Auburn's the top 15 football program all time. And not a lot of teams in the SEC can recruit like Auburn could, or compete like Auburn can, get the talent that Auburn can. And you're finally seeing that kind of come back into play. Of course, Auburn had 2 years where they didn't recruit very well. They were recruiting different guys than what we were used to Auburn going afterward. And now a lot of those guys aren't on the roster anymore. So going into 2024, I don't see a world where I don't see a realistic world where Hugh Freeze gets fired because he's under too much pressure at Auburn. I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's feasible. Other synonyms that I could throw in there. I just think that 2024 is going to be the next step of a rebuild that takes a massive step in the right direction. Of course, I'm not going to be a fan that's going to be upset with 7 wins. I'm not going to be a fan that's going to be upset with 8 or 9 wins. If you're upset with 8 wins, something's wrong with you. If you're upset with 7 wins, I don't know why. But going to this year, of course, you're expecting improvement. I don't think that's anything against any of the coaching staff. Is year 2 of a program, you're wanting to see improvement. And that's not going to mean going from 6 wins, going up to 9, going up to 10, going up to 11, going up to national championship, that level. And of course, a 9-3 season is very plausible if everything goes in Auburn's direction. I mean, we saw last year where Auburn took Georgia and Alabama to the last quarter. And of course, there's a game in between those two that I refuse to ever mention again because it just irks me so much. I'm not even going to give a hint as to what game it is. I think everyone knows what game I'm talking about. But you're going into 2024, and you have 8 home games or 7 home games. You have most of your schedule is at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and of course your toughest games are Georgia, Missouri, Alabama, and I could throw Kentucky in there, but I'm not. But those 3 are your big 3 away games, and of course you have Kentucky too, who could be good, who could be bad. You never know. I don't think Mark Stoops is going to be around too much longer in Lexington. I didn't even. Where was he at on the list? He was at 12. I think that he could be on his way out, and he's at 12. Just because he tried to leave in the offseason already. But just to kind of wrap it up and kind of move on to talking about the meat and potatoes of today's episode, just talking about the position previews that we're going to get, second part of the position preview series. Hugh Freeze, whether you like it or not, whether you think Auburn is this, oh, you can't win in 2 years, we're going to fire you program, which no Auburn fan thinks that way. I hope not, at least. Whether you like it or not, Hugh Freeze, he's safe until at least 2026, I'll say. You got to give coaches time nowadays. And of course you saw it with Kirby Smart. It took him a few years. It took Saban a couple of years. You got to give these coaches time to build up their roster. And Hugh Freeze, I think, is getting started better than a few of the other guys. I don't know if he'll have the same success as Kirby Smart or Nick Saban. I don't think anybody's going to have the same success as Nick Saban did. But you got to get there first, and you got to recruit those players that can compete for national championships, that can compete for SEC championships, that can beat Alabama and Georgia in the same year. So I don't think he's under a lot of pressure. I think there is pressure, but not enough to consider him potentially on the hot seat. I would think it'd be stupid to even consider Hugh Freeze on the hot seat. But with that kind of does it for that conversation. Let me know what you think. Do you think Hugh Freeze under pressure? Or do you think he's on the hot seat just starting off on the regular season? Which, if you do, let me know why, because that just confuses the crap out of me. But we'll be right back after this short little ad break, and we'll be talking about the running backs on the other side of the break. So we'll be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. Yeah, of course, it's on the warreport.com. Go to the shop. First page is the college loop hat, which I'm wearing right now. And the second page is the Feelin' Loopy t-shirt, which I'm also wearing right now. Great little combo to wear. I must say myself, $50 is a very good price for both things. Of course, I wear the hat almost every day. I love this hat to death. And I also wear the shirt a lot whenever I get it washed because, again, what's called a shirt you wear in your entire life. I'm recording right now it's 7:30 Central Time. I'm currently in Eastern Time in West Virginia. But it's a nice, cool day. It just rained not too long before I started recording, and the shirt, it's the best shirt to lounge in. I'm the most comfortable person in the world right now because I'm just out in nature with the best shirt to ever be made on my body right now. And of course, it's the second best way you can support the show is by buying the merch. The best way to support the show is, of course, following us and on everything, right here on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the rest of those outstanding social media outlets, all of those at The College Loop. And of course, we're doing a great job over here at the YouTube. We're growing exponentially. It's so cool to watch that number get higher and higher. Hopefully one day we get to see that go from 900 or 800 to 1K, because that's awesome whenever it does that. So hopefully that happens for football season. I'm okay if it doesn't, but it's just really cool to see that number just keep going up. But with that, let's kind of move on to the next segment of the show. Auburn's running back room goes into 2024 as one of the most talented running back rooms Auburn's had since last year, really. Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, and Jeremiah Cobb are going to get the bulk of the carries. Sean Jackson, of course, is going to be the fourth string kind of emergency back, but Auburn's going to go into this year with Jarquez Hunter as the workhorse back. You're expecting a 1,000-yard season out of Jarquez. I think that's very feasible if you get all 12 games out of him. You just 13 if I go by my prediction record. But Jarquez Hunter is going to be your workhorse. He has earned. I don't think there's a player in the country that deserves 1,000-yard season more than Jarquez Hunter does. And of course, right behind him is Damari Alston, who offers a great 1-2 punch with Jarquez and giving him giving Auburn not really a step down in talent throughout the board. If one guy gets tired, you have another guy to go. If that guy gets tired, you have a third string guy who can go. And then, of course, the cycle just continues after that because I think the Jarquez Hunter, kind of going back to him, I think a lot of people are underrating Jarquez because I think a lot of people not. I think Jarquez is undisputably the best running back in the SEC. And of course, I know people, I've seen people rank like Ulysses Bentley from Ole Miss ahead of him. Travis Etienne was one guy who I've seen a lot of people rank above him, but I don't really see that yet, especially. I don't know if there's ever going to be a running back that fails at Georgia because of how good their offensive line has been. Of course, we've had guys in the past that I just don't know of right now. But looking at Jarquez Hunter, he has the potential to prove to not only the SEC, but to the country that he is one of, if not the best running back in the country. Of course, you're going to have guys like Quinshon Judkins, and you're going to have guys like Ollie Gordon the fourth. Don't really want to go too far into Ollie Gordon right now. But he has the potential. It's there. We've seen so many sparks of just how good Jarquez Hunter can be. And I think this year you're going to see it. And of course, I think I talk about this a lot. I don't think you're going to see a full implementation of the wide receiver rooms right away. I think you're going to see a lot of running the ball. I think like against Arkansas, you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of against Oklahoma. To start off the season, because you don't want to start running and gunning all the time. And of course, if Auburn feels confident in that, you can. And that's just kind of based on how Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne feel. But going into the year, you're expecting to see a lot more of the running backs used than you are the wide receivers to start off the season. Of course, it's a confidence thing. And hopefully I don't hear those bugs behind me because they're going crazy. Then after Jarquez, of course, is Damari Alston, who, again, I just said it earlier, he's probably one of the best. I don't want to say one of the best because I feel like I'm going to get too many hot takes out there. But Auburn will not experience a drop-off in talent going from Jarquez Hunter to Damari Alston. We've seen it in the past. We saw it last year, and we saw it the year prior that when Damari Alston came in, he offers a spark to the offense. And it's something you really want out of your number 2 backs, out of your number 3 backs too. But Auburn just has a rare occasion of having 3 guys who can all make plays. And Damari, he's a great power level back. I think he's going to pair off really good with Jeremiah Cobb in 2025 when both those guys are going to be number 1 and number 2. And of course, Jeremiah Cobb, of course, is your athletic playmaking running back that you didn't see a whole lot of him last year. Of course, you saw bits and pieces of him. And of course, he got a lot more playing time than a lot of other freshmen would. But Jeremiah Cobb, it seemed like a lot of the times last year, whenever he did touch the ball, something special happened. A play happened, and touchdowns were scored. Jeremiah Cobb was the integral piece of the offense last year, and of course he wasn't like a whole piece, but he was like let's say like sprinkles on a pie. Like you got the whipped cream and you got the pie and everything works better, and then you're like, oh well, we can just put sprinkles, and that's not gonna be a bad thing, because there's not gonna be a lot of them, but it's a special thing whenever you do get it on there. I'm not even a sweet tooth making that analogy. Hopefully that lands. That could also just sound very stupid. Let me know in the comments below. But this running back room, I'm not going to put in the same category as I will the wide receiver room, because I think the wide receiver room I think can be the best wide receiver room I've ever had. The running back room is very talented. It's the same as last year's, really, outside of Brian Battie, who is healing very nicely, according to the updates I've been reading. But sadly, Auburn will be without Brian Battie, I believe, this year. But Jeremiah Cobb, I think, is going to get a lot more touches than he did last year, and I think that's going to be earned. He was just so good last year, and I think if you get all 3 of these guys healthy, Auburn's going to have 1,000-yard rusher without a doubt with Jarquez, and you're going to have 2 guys who probably get 500 each. I think you're going to have Auburn rushing for 2,000 yards again, and hopefully you can get a 2,500-yard passer, 3,000-yard passer. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, it's possible. I don't know if it's likely to happen right away. because I do think Auburn's going to be hammering the run a little bit to start off the season. But yeah, that's just kind of the running back. The running back room, I think, arguably could be without just based off of what we know and what we've seen so far, this could be the best position group on the team. Just because we know what to expect from all three of these running backs, and we know that all three of them can achieve greatness. I don't think Auburn can go wrong with starting any of the three running backs for a game. I don't think you're going to see a drop off. I think you'll have different plays get called. I think Jarquez works better as a run first guy. Brian Battie does too. Jeremiah Cobb, you can mix it up. He's going to be your elusive pass catching running back that people have passed remember a lot. I mean, I'm a Panthers fan. Christian McCaffrey remains one of my favorite players from the Panthers history. Number 2, probably the only Cam Newton. But yeah, I just think that this running back room is very talented, and it is going to be one of the best in the country as a room, just because there's not going to be that drop off. But if I had to make a prediction, and I think I've done it before, but I kind of rekindled it a little bit. Jarquez is going to have that 1,000 yards. I don't think he might get 1,100. I think I will probably give him. I'll give him the 1,100. He's going to get the 1,000 yards and more. I'll give him the 1,100. I'll say Damari gets about 600, and 600 I think works, and then Jeremiah might get 400, 300. Jeremiah's probably going to get a lot more receiving yards this year. But that's my kind of preview for the running back room. I think again, this is the best position group on the team. Of course, kicker might be 1 or 2. I will say I did read that Alex McPherson has been dealing with some gastrointestinal issues. So I do pray for him that he will get better before the season comes. And Hugh Freeze is optimistic that he'll be back. So words are hard. All right. So last bit of news before we get out of here. Of course, as you heard probably yesterday, Tyler Scott tore his ACL. Very young DB who showed a lot of promise in the games that he did get in. But sad to see that happen. He'll be a guy who's going to be in the rotation as soon as he gets healthy in 2025. I think he's going to be a key contributor to the defense. And then last bit of news, DeWanna Bonner. Huge shout to DeWanna Bonner getting her 6th WNBA All-Star bid. So huge shout to DeWanna Bonner. Auburn doing great things in the pros. But that being said, that kind of does it for this installment of the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Larck. You boy on Twitter. Of course, you have my Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, DYLENLERCK. And of course, you can find me right here on the College Loop Podcast, which you like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on is Hugh Freeze under in 2024, and leave your thoughts on the Auburn running back room. Give your stat predictions on the running backs as well. But of course, voice that in the comment section below, or tweet at me as well at Dylan, at your boy the Tank. There we go. Call coming back together. But thanks for coming to this installment of the College Loop Podcast. Of course, follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the worst, always at the College Loop. Subscribe to us on the YouTube. Follow us on all the audio platforms. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in for this installment of the College Loop Podcast. War Eagle, and again, thanks for watching.